Hi there, sports fans. This is Playitright TV, and I'm Quinito Henson with...
I'm Dyan, Castillejo. Welcome to another episode, and we are still at the World Cup fever going on in Manila, Philippines right now, and we have a super special guest.
We know about Jordan Clarkson, but you'll get to meet Jordan Clarkson's father, the man who raised him, made him the man he is today, and we're so excited to talk to him because he's got a lot of stories to tell. Mike Clarkson.
Welcome back to the Philippines.
Thank you very much. We were looking forward to it, and we're here.
We want to ask you so much, but first of all, just off the bat, being here back in the Philippines for the World Cup, wearing a Filipina shirt, your son playing again for the country. What impact does it have on you, sir?
Well, it's humbling for us as a family, because we understand Jordan's impact in the Philippines and how many people look up and support him, here in the country and throughout the United States as well. There's a lot of Filipino Americans there. And so he understands the gravity of the situation, so to speak, not to put a damper on it, but he understands who he plays for. He doesn't play for himself, he plays for an entire country. And that honors his Lola, Marcelina.
Well, Mike, tell us about your own basketball background. You mentioned several names earlier, David Robinson, a lot of San Antonio Spurs legends. Were you a coach yourself? At what level did you coach? And your experience in basketball, how did that translate into Jordan becoming the great player that he is today?
Well, basketball is something that I grew up impoverished in Washington, D.C., which is the nation's capital when you talk about the states, and I grew up impoverished there. So basketball was more or less the avenue to get out of poverty.
Okay.
And I tried to use it to get an education, and that's what I was able to do. I was able to use it, not to be as tall as Jordan is, of course, but to get an education and to open different avenues for myself. So with that being said, when you talk about how I got into sports, I was actually a fighter as well. I almost made the '84 Olympic team in Los Angeles.
As a
I was
boxer?
a fighter, yes. I was a welterweight, and I was ranked 17th in the country.
Well, Mike, we know about Jordan Clarkson. We know about him as an athlete and as a player, but you raised him, the man that he is today. Can you tell us about his character? Did you see, as a small boy growing up, that he was going to be the star that he is today?
Not necessarily so. I don't think any of us as parents can assume that your kid is going to be, become what he's become. But what we tried to instill is values and morals, and how you approach sports, and how you gain a competitive edge in sports. And he was able to adapt to a lot of different philosophies when you talk about sports. And he was around a lot of professional athletes. A lot of friends of mine, like David Robinson, who played with the Spurs, Sean Elliott, Tim Duncan, Doc Rivers, you name it. I allowed him to be around athletes so that he could see that they were normal people. So if you try to attain something on the level in which they accomplished, then you can understand they go through the same ups and downs, emotions that you go through. And when we sat back and looked at Jordan, we allowed him as a kid to do what he wanted to do.
Okay.
And that means that went from track and field to football, a little bit of basketball,
Soccer
not much.
or American?
Soccer as well. Soccer as well.
You mean American football or soccer?
Yes. Well, when I say football, I mean actual football, American football, and then he played soccer also.
Okay.
So we allowed him the latitude to play a lot of different sports, because you never know how you're going to excel or where you might excel. And so for him to become who he has become, we kind of take it back to his roots, and we allowed him the freedom to go out and just try to experience all sports. And you can never pick what your kid wants to be best at, but I tried. Track and field, he was very good. He was one of the best kids in the country in track and field, and that's what really propelled him. And then he decided that basketball was something he really wanted to take on as a ninth grader, which is, it wasn't as promising, because we understood he was a late beginner, late starter. And so to accomplish what he's done in the time frame that he's done it, to make it all the way to the NBA for a young man that started late in his basketball, is phenomenal to all of us.
Nice. And so, having said that, there's so many parents, of course, Filipino parents, who dream of, their kids making it not just for the national team, but even in the NBA. So you would highly recommend a child to be exposed to different sports as you did, and then later on to pick and choose?
Yes, I think it's very important because at one point the athlete understands that it's not a decision that he's made when the parents are overbearing, so to speak. So if they just want you to play soccer and that's all they allow you to do, then at one point you're not doing it for you anymore. You're doing it for your parents.
Yeah.
And with that said, I prayed about it, a decision we had to make, and I didn't want to be an overbearing parent. And God said, allow him to do what he chooses, and you just support him as best you can, and give him the same level of support and encouragement, and you allow to what happened, and that's what we did. So I would make that recommendation to any parent. Give your kid the opportunity to experience the different sports, and at one point they fall in love with something. It might even be tennis, as your son has done. So it happens. It happens, but you just allow them to make it seem like it was their decision, and they had so much input, because they're going to give you 150% if you allow them to do that. With that said, I was also able to, with my basketball experience, at one point grow to understand I wasn't going to make it as far as Jordan did. So I kind of took a step back and said, well, how can I still be impactful in sports and to help other youth be able to accomplish things that I've accomplished? And that took me into coaching. I think my wife made me coach, because I sit back and I'd be in the stands like a lot of parents and saying, well, why is that coach doing this and why is he doing that? And she kind of, well, if you think you know everything, you go down and coach. I said, you know what?
That's a good idea.
Next year I'm gonna go down and I'm gonna show you. And I went down and started coaching, and I was very successful early. So then I challenged myself being a coach, because I allowed my wife to put together my athletic teams. So that means I had no input whatsoever. I just saw the team one day when we had practice, and I was out to prove a point to her. You give me a kid, and I'll make the kid better.
So, Coach Mike, your coach was your wife.
Yeah, well,
She know about basketball.
well, she learned a lot of basketball from being around me.
Okay.
But and she was my biggest critic, of course.
Okay.
But she really inspired me to go ahead and take that next level and jump into coaching.
That's amazing.
Wow.
That's amazing.
And kind of prove myself.
Okay.
And so I was very fortunate. I've taken teams to win national championships in the States. And a lot of kids have gone on to play professional and then even college basketball
That's so
that I've had.
good.
And so Andre Roberson, who played with Oklahoma Thunder, that was one of my kids as well. But I've got doctors and lawyers that they've used sports to propel them to professional levels as well. Not just in sports, but professional level in business.
But that's amazing. But talking about that part of your life, we know that you also set the direction for Jordan Clarkson's foundation. Exactly what does that foundation do, and your involvement in that foundation?
Well, the foundation started because I had stage 4 cancer in 2014, right before Jordan got drafted to the Lakers. And I was going through, my cancer therapy treatments at the Mayo Clinic, Rochester Mayo Clinic in Minnesota, which is an international hospital. And we vowed I'm going to make it through. That's what I said. Because God already told me I was going to make it through. Even though it was stage 4, I never
Stage
sat
4.
back. Yeah, stage 4. And it was about 60 to 75 days before metastasizing. That means where it spreads and they can't do anything. And I was fortunate enough to be one of the ones that they brought me in immediately to Minnesota, and I flew up, and for a year I couldn't walk and went through that. And so as we were going through that, and as I sat down, I talked to Jordan. He was preparing for the draft. And I said, well, Jordan, if you get drafted, I really want you to think about opening the foundation. And one of the things that was near and dear to him was the battle that I went through. And he, it affected him.
Yeah.
It affected him deeply. And he almost walked away from basketball at the University of Missouri. And he almost quit. And the assistant coach said, no, your dad told me to make sure I get you through this last year. And I promised him I was going to get through it. So whatever we have to do, we're going to get through this year. And that stuck with Jordan. And he watched, what I was going through from a distance.
Yeah.
And so he understood what cancer and how debilitating it can be. And so
This was like 10 years ago.
Yes. And he said, well, Dad, well, I want to do it where we're impacting families that are afflicted with cancer, and families that are impoverished, knowing that you grew up impoverished and you allow me to grow up impoverished. And then just to be able to help anyone that needs help, so to speak. And so his foundation has done really, really well. We've given back to so many families in Los Angeles, San Antonio, Cleveland, and now in Utah. So we're all over. We're doing so many things to help families that have cancer. We give them grants. We help them with their payments because many of them can't afford chemotherapy to payments and things like that and don't have the insurance. So Jordan, he lends a help hand there. when it comes to families that don't have money to get their kids prepped for school. He does backpack and school supplies giveaway. Everything is out of his pocket, gives it to him. He does it in Los Angeles. I mean, for Thanksgiving, we were in Utah, and I'm not trying to be funny, but I didn't think there was that many needy families in the state of Utah.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. The turnout that we had. He gave away entire Thanksgiving dinners, everything. You just grabbed a box, and everything was there
That's
for
so
you and your family.
That's so nice.
And they were very thankful. You know, I was surprised.
Well, thank God he didn't quit. That you made him go through, and we're praising the Lord that you're well.
Yes, ma'am.
Right? Share with us a little bit about how he was able to develop the love for the country, so much so that he's back here playing basketball for us.
Well, of course, his Lola. You know, Marceline was a big driving influence there before she passed away about 1.5 years, 2 years ago now. But the thing that really stuck with Jordan is when his first visit here, he came here with his agency at the time. And he visited, what was it, Tenement?
Tenement, yes.
Okay.
Tenement, yeah.
He visited.
Yeah.
And I had never seen Jordan be so emotional explaining a story to me or describing a circumstance or a situation. Because he went,
Yeah.
and we don't, you know, there are different levels of poverty, as we all know.
Yes. Yeah.
And he saw the kids, and so he got out the van, and the security tells him, "No, Jordan, you can't get out." He said, "I want to get out because I want to stop."
Yeah.
And they stopped there, and they had the basketball court that you all know about.
Yes.
And so he went out there, and they were really nervous, you know, security detail, like, "Jordan, you have to be careful." He said, "No." He said, I'm like them. And so the little kids were running around. And so he had the basketball, and he said, "Well, let's play." And the kids, they were so excited, "Yeah, let's play," you know, and they started playing. And so he said, "Wait a minute, guys." He said, go get your tennis shoes on, and then you know, we'll really get to play. And they were looking at him like, "What are you talking about?" Right, and that really, you know, he came back and told us in the States when he came home, he said, "Dad," he stated that, he said, "they didn't have shoes.
Yeah.
They didn't have shirts." And I said, you know, now he understood that there are differences throughout the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And some people are not as blessed or not as fortunate
Yes.
for whatever means. And the very next year that he came back, he went back to the tenement, and at that time he was sponsored by Nike. And they gave all the kids shoes, shorts, shirts. I mean, and the same kids that he saw a year before that were there. And it was just, you know, and we got pictures of it. We had, you know, it was something that really, you know, stuck with him. And at that point, I knew he was really driven to make a difference.
That's a wonderful story. And I imagine that Jordan Clarkson's foundation will have an extension in the Philippines in the future.
Yes, and we, you know, we work a lot with East West Private, and they kind of guide us, you know, navigate us through the, you know, how the Philippines work, and we're trying to do a lot of things there, and we hope, you know, even when we come back, we hope to come back even next summer and to do some things, but it won't be because of the World Cup. We'll be kind of relaxed. And then he gets to really do some philanthropic, you know, initiatives then, because we haven't planned out exactly what they're going to be. We need help, you know, with East West Private. We'll figure it out, and he'll be able to, you know, get back and spend some time here.
Super good news.
Yes, ma'am.
How has it been so far, this particular trip for you, Mike, with Jordan and I guess your families? You have your wife here with you. How has it been with the World Cup events just around the corner?
Well, when we've been here in the past, we understand it's not the World Cup. World Cup is big, and we really are excited about, you know, watching the team perform this year, because it seems like it's something different. You know, just watching them practice, it seems like something's different. They have a different motivation.
Good?
Yes. I mean, but
Very
you can
positive.
see it. And they're trying to figure things out. I've been in their practice, and they're really trying to figure things out, because they understand that the competition level has risen. You know, you have NBA guys that are coming to play for their countries. So, of course, everybody wants to win. And so that takes a lot of dedication, hard work, and everybody has to be committed to the same goal. And the fans here are incredible. So even some of Jordan's, you know, friends that play in the NBA that are here with their respective teams, they're like, "We want to see what it's like, especially the USA team." You know, or we want to see what it's like. Well, you're going to see. You know, these fans, they understand basketball, they love basketball, and they're gonna hold you accountable, you know, one way or another.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we want to thank you, Mike,
Yes.
for your time, for joining us here on Playitright TV. I thought the insights you shared about Jordan Clarkson will make the Filipino fans even admire him so much more.
Yeah.
You know, he's an NBA player, but he's spending a lot of time in the Philippines, playing for the country, being one of us, being a Filipino, playing the game that we love, and raising our flag up high.
Yes, sir.
So we want to thank you very much for raising a son like Jordan, and we want to thank you for being here and supporting the Philippine team.
I'll say go Gilas, Rapuso. You gotta have that fight.
Salamat, salamat. Maraming salamat. God bless you.
Oh, thank you very much.
Thanks for all your
Thanks for having me.
stories.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Mike. And that's Mike Clarkson for you. And this was Quinito Henson with
I'm
Dyan
Dyan
Castillejo. Playitright TV all the time.
See you next time.